Hey, so one of the topics I cover in my work within organisational consultancy or coaching psychology is conflict. One of the things that comes up again and again and again is that conflict is constantly happening for us. We have internal conflicts, we have external conflicts, we have relational conflicts, we have conflicts with systems, we have conflicts of experience, and all of that often leads to a particular pattern of response. So most of us are automatically responding to conflict in the way that protects us and reduces threat. What I mean by that is we all have a go-to. Think about it. What's your go-to for a conflict? What do you do? Do you avoid conflict? Do you run at it heads up? Do you cause conflict? Do you wait for others to cause conflict? Do you deny your own experience of being conflicted about something? Do you project it onto other people? So maybe you're struggling with something, so you go out there and you find the struggle with other people. Conflict is a part of everyday life because conflict is simply learning to integrate things better. So what I mean by that is conflict occurs when there's two opposing factors. So that could be two opposing belief systems, two opposing desires, opposing power dynamics, opposing end results. It can be one of many things. But when conflict occurs, we will go to our automatic. And what's really important, whether it's relationships with conflict, where it's personal and professional, whether we're having more legal conflict, it is really, really important that we come back to ourselves first and we acknowledge the triggering event. Now, a triggering event is anything that triggers a reaction in us that moves us towards conflict. So it can be an internal event, which means a judgment you have. So sometimes I've met people who are in these total conflicts with somebody else. The other person knows nothing about them, about the conflict, but the person's built it up in their head. So that's an internal conflict. The second one is an external conflict. Something happens externally to you. Something happens, somebody behaves in a way you don't like, you get rejected, something happens, you don't like it. It's an external event and you're triggered by it. The next point of call for that is to own it. So owning, I feel this way, and when I feel this way, I need this. So taking a little bit of space when the conflict has occurred to actually move from reaction to response. So once you've done that, once you know how you're feeling and you know what you need, you'll be in a better position to choose a response. And choosing a response comes down to a couple of things. One is this appropriate? How can I address this in a way that is respectful to myself and the other? And most of the time what we do in conflict is we ditch being respectful to the other because we actually are in blame. We're in blame and shame mode. We want them to be wrong. Even if they are wrong or even if they're not wrong, we don't generally want to be respectful towards them. Naturally, if we're struggling to be respectful towards them, we need to come back again with how we're feeling and what we need, because there is something occurring for us in that trigger that isn't allowing us to process it into coming into contact with the other person in a way that's respectful and helpful. Now, one of the issues with the triggers and with what happens to us is often things are triggered that are historical or are related to something outside of the situation, and we don't have the insight to see the connection. That's why acknowledging how we feel and acknowledging what we need allows us to get clearer about what's really going on for us. It then equips us to make a better decision about how we respond. So they're the three basic steps around conflict if you want to do conflict more effectively. One is be aware of what the trigger was, whether it's internal or external, and what it was. Two, you look at what you're feeling and then what you need. And lastly, you go to choose a response versus a reaction. A response is something that fits the situation, that's appropriate, whereas a reaction is something that kind of lets you release something or has you hold something, which both releasing something or storing something, neither are helpful. So they're the three simple steps around conflict. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me on one of the social media sites or pop me a message to info@silewalsh.com. I hope that was helpful. Let me know your thoughts.